Okay, hello everyone. Welcome to our Atlas First Look session. We'll just give everyone a couple minutes to join, so I'll start it at 5:02 CST. Nice, looks like we've got a lot of people joining. Okay, it's 5:02, so let's get started. Again, welcome everyone to joining us for this First Look session here for DSN Atlas. I'll start with some quick intros. Today's session will be presented by our Chief Product Strategy Officer, Crystal Fulton. Crystal leads product strategy here at DSN, and she has lived inside Atlas since its first line of code. So she'll be the one running the demo today. I'm Bruno. I'm working in the marketing department, and I'll be moderating the session and checking in for any questions you send our way. Before we start, I'll just do some housekeeping. So we'll be sending the recording for this session to your inbox tomorrow morning. So just keep an eye out for that. If you have any questions, please feel free to send them on the Q&A section, and we'll try to go over some of them at the end. And here's our agenda for today. So we'll start with a short story on why Atlas exists, a quick tour of what's new, and then we'll go into the part that most of you are here for, how the transition works, whether you're on DSN Cloud or V30 on premises. After that, the lights will go away and Crystal will drive a live demo, and we'll close it off with some questions. So, Crystal, feel free to take it away.
Thank you everyone for joining. I see a lot of familiar names on here. So again, thank you for taking the time to take a look at our Atlas. Today, we again are going to talk about how you would transition to Atlas as well as the demo. So what is Atlas? It's a complete generational leap, and everything your practice runs on is built for speed, powered by AI, ready on any device. That's what Atlas is for. It's built on the same foundation that you're accustomed to, whether you're a V30 customer today or whether or not you are on Atlas, or excuse me, cloud. So a few things. Now it's powered by AI and lightning fast speeds on a browser base. So this again is browser based. Again, as mentioned before, it runs on any device. This includes a Windows, a Mac, an iPad, a tablet, your mobile phone. So straight out of the box, web browser, you're ready to go. Your workflows will stay pretty consistent. There are new enhancements, but the workflows that you're accustomed today, but it'll seem drastically faster. And you'll see that from day one that every screen loads instantly. You also will have that advantage of having the opportunity to always be on the current build. So what does this look like? It looks more like when you are on like an app on your phone or something similar to that where it says update. You have update built in the system that you can just select on and update versus scheduling those updates through DSN and having your downtime for that. As stated before, this does not require a server. This is a web browser, so no server maintenance in regards to the PMS system itself. With those, there's 4 leaps forward. We're going to highlight those in our demo today. But Ask Atlas AI is one of the main features that we're going to cover in the demo. This is a voice and text AI connected to your live patient data, can pull charts, run reports, and enter notes, whether you have a microphone that you would like to speak into or whether you want to type, all built on AI platform. As I will continuously state throughout today's demo, it's significantly faster. Every screen loads instantly, whether that's your charting, billing, scheduling, it'll feel seamless for you. Again, browser-based, no servers, no installs, works where you got internet. An advantage of that with it being fully browser-based that some of you might apt to ask in questions or remarks is what happens if internet goes down? A lot of your today features, such as whether or not you're sending electronic claims, electronic prescriptions, everything's dependent on the internet. And with that being said, there are safety nets that you can have in place that if your power or internet went down at the practice, I should say your internet, it could also run off as something as small as a hotspot, whether that's your phone hotspot, things of those natures, so you can continuously practice. There are new capabilities built into the platform. Again, excited to show you that demo today on the Referral Hub, which is a live queue for incoming referrals. The patient portal, which we reference as Dent Chart. Just for your mindset, maybe some of you have used Epic or have been to your doctor before personally, and you've gained access to what people reference as My Chart. In the dental world, we are calling it Dent Chart, and DSN has Dent Chart as our portal. So our patient portal is referenced as Dent Chart. And Prescription Straight from your phone is now a capability within Atlas, which again, if you're on a V30 and or are cloud-based, that is not an option for you today. So moving forward, you'd have that capability built out within Atlas. So what would your pathway look for Atlas? And I know some of you that are on this session today are cloud users, where others of you are on V30, but pretty similar experience on what this would look like. So if you're on cloud today, full setup happens before your cutover, not during the process. So we would take your information, put it straight to Atlas. Once you schedule, we just cut it over. There's no record split, no downtime. Your teams can just start using Atlas as soon as they get cut over. You pick the date and coordinate that with your project manager, and we get that scheduled. Where that looks a little different on V30 is we do a guided migration with your dedicated DSN team representative. Your data is mapped and moved over for you. And as we move that over, it's the same day cutover once you're ready to go. And we start that conversion again at your time of when you choose to go live with that. And again, whether or not you're on cloud and or V30, you will have your dedicated project manager to walk you through those steps. Now, what all of you came for today is the Atlas demo. So I'm going to go ahead and minimize this so I can pop on over to our Atlas. You will see from DSN Atlas that I have pulled up today. The features, if you are currently utilizing our cloud product, will look very familiar to you. If, again, you are a cloud user, the look and feel aesthetically is a little bit more appealing in Atlas. However, the navigation is pretty similar, where you still have those availabilities that you can favorite things to your toolbar. So that, again, is customizable to you as the user, that you can star items that you would like to have visible up on your toolbar. If you are coming from V30, once we hit on individual windows, everything will look pretty similar but more enhanced. And one of those things I wanted to point out here in Atlas, when we're looking at our scheduler, if you are coming from cloud over to Atlas, we did bring back our resource tracking or doctor assistant time. So if that's something that you were missing from V30, you will see that present here in Atlas. And those of you are coming from V30, utilize that, no worries. It will be here in Atlas with that migration. Again, that's just tracking if you want to track, again, maybe doctor assistant time or specific people of where they're at in a procedure that has came back into Atlas. Another new feature for both of you, whether again V30 or cloud, is we have now added either pod views, doctor view, or scheduler view here on the left-hand side. These were not features that we had available in either platform before. So if you're a multi-location practice and say a doctor goes between multiple locations, instead of switching between locations or books, if you will, you have that availability to just select in here which doctor it is that you're wanting to look for. And regardless of their location, it will show you here. So I see in Clinic 2, in Clinic 1, we can see at which location they are without having to switch between books or locations. So again, that would be a new feature in Atlas available, not something that you have today in your practice management system. Now, moving right along, we are going to also talk about forms. That has came up several times from all clients, is what will the forms look like inside of Atlas? And inside of Atlas, we now have the ability, as I had mentioned before, to have a referring doctor portal, as well as our patient portal, which again, we call DentChart. And with those are the forms, and they are built out and controlled by your practice. So you would be able to come in and create forms for both your referring doctors and your patients that you would like published on those portals. I have some examples set up here, but I'm going to create a new one just to show you that visibility that I can come in, and we have some get you started packages, if you will, that you can come in and select from a form, and then you can customize it to your practice needs. So as you can read on the screen, there's different categories such as referral, that would be coming from the referring doctor, the patient intake paperwork, whether that's HIPAA, compliance, consent forms, so on and so forth. You can publish all of your own that you'd want visible both for your referring doctors and your patients. So for example, I'll just use this new patient registration as an example. It will pull up the form here where you have that availability that I could do a split view, and I could see all the fields that are already selected and what it looks like on the form. So if there's specific fields, for example, that you do not want available on the form. So for example, you don't want the second address line. I'll just use that as our first starter here. If you don't want that second street address, I could hit delete here. And as I do so, watch, it'll remove it from over here. So I'll hit delete, and we can see it instantly updates that form. Same thing would be applicable that if you jotted down to maybe your health history information and you wanted to reorganize them, you could drag them, you could edit or delete and have the things that pertain to your specific practice here. Once you complete your forms, and again, you could go through there and 100% customize it to your needs, we would go ahead and hit save. This just saves the draft, and so you could come back to it at a later time to complete. So if I needed to come back in here before I make this live, I could come in and, for example, upload my practice's logo. You could update your logo, so on and so forth. Now, to have this as something that would be live for your practices is you would come in, sorry, I clicked too many things there. You would come into your external forms and you would select on that line item and hit publish, and it would then make it something that is visible for your end users from either their partner portal and or from the patient portal. So the external forms wanted to give you a preview that you would control all forms and what contained on those forms to have them published for those specific providers. Now that we've discussed what those forms look like, we're going to talk about where they go. So number one is, we had mentioned we have a new referral hub built into the system. So anytime a referring doctor refers a patient to your practice, you might optimize the referral hub, in which case referrals would come in and you could select on that line so we can see whether or not they were accepted at the practice level, if they were received, who referred them to our practice, if we refer them outside of our practice, at what location of yours, what kind of form was it that they filled out, and how did it come? So did it come because they were coming from a portal? Was this patient a self-referral? what date was the referral received on, so we can do tracking and make sure that we keep track of all referrals, again, whether they're self-referral or coming from a referring doctor built into your referral hub. By selecting on any line is going to give us more information. So for example, I will pop on down to an online referral. And by selecting on that online referral, it's going to give us more detailed information. So we can see what this referral was for. It can also show us any forms that were filled out. It can show us if they have a chart, anything in their chart, the timeline in which that we received this referral. So did we get the referral? Did it come from the portal? And did we also invite the patient to a portal to become an active patient? You can see there's various different things that we can see when the referral is incoming. When we receive that referral from that referring doctor, we have that option to invite the patient to their portal. So what do these mystery portals look like that I keep speaking of? Well, they are customized to your practice or your oral surgery group. So I have a setup example. I'm pretending I'm a doctor. Full transparency, I am not. But for this live example, we'll pretend. So here we'll see for the partner portal, this is what we would reference as a referring doctor. They would have a URL that you would replace on your website for referring doctors to come in and do a referral. When they come in, they could hit new referral, and based off of what you had published as your referral, they could start that process and fill out that completed form and send it to your oral surgery practice. Once that referral is sent over, they can track their referrals of who has been sent over, who's currently active in progress, receive letters back from you as the oral surgeon to their practice. The referring doctor also has that availability that they can message your practice and start a new message. So here they would be able to select, do they want to message the doctor, the clinical team, the front desk, billing, or whatever we specify based off of your employees' roles. So here I might say, I want to message the doctor and say, did you get my referral? Once I send that, what happens for the practice is I will do a refresh here. We will see up at the top, we have external forms communications. And all of our portal messages will come into one location that we have parameters. So if I am a doctor, I could say I want to see my doctor notes. And here I'm automatically finding, did you get my referral? And I could respond back just like we do in a text thread, but it's kept within the system. That is an option you may choose to utilize, or we could just use it for referral tracking purposes only. If there's specific forms that you need this referring doctor to fill out, those are also visible, as well as the profile of that referring doctor is kept in the system. So they can track, again, all their referrals that they've sent to your oral surgery practice. Now, switching on over to our patient portal, I want you to take note first that we have a theme. This theme, whether or not you're under the referring doctor and or you're in the patient portal, they are 100% customizable to your practice needs. So if you want to have your logo on this screen, your practice name here, as well as like a slogan that you use, this is all customizable for you. So here then, when the patient or the practice logs into their portals, they will be able to see what you had set up for your first login window. So a lot of people are choosing to have like their practice's photo here or something that's symbolizing their logo. So again, I'm going to go to my test patient and have them sign in so I can give you a preview of what your patient's experience will look like in the dent chart. In this example, I have a patient of record in DSN Atlas, and this is the records that I have shared here to show. So if this patient, for example, has any future visits, it will show their upcoming appointments. We can set it up with your practice if we want to book an appointment that will send a notification to your practice that this patient would like to schedule. We have the availability to see for that patient their health, their allergies, medications, vitals, whatever we define that we want visible for the patient in their portal, it would show here. And just like we saw with the referring doctor, we're going to see that same thing here under patient, that the patient has that option to message the practice as well. And it works just the same as we saw before. They pick who their targeting message is going to, and we can keep track of that in portal messages. Something really fun and exciting that I know a lot of you have probably been waiting for and asking for is here. And that would be bill pay from the portal. DSN is offering through DSN Atlas, DSN Pay. So in this case, if you do sign up for DSN Pay, your patients will be able to come to their portal and make a pay directly from the portal. Again, that's optimizing DSN Pay. If this patient's made prior history of payments, they'd be able to see that. Any forms that they need to start or they have completed, as well as whatever the practice wants to share with the patient. So here I have a consult letter that I have shared. So I'll be able to look and preview that consult letter, as well as any additional information we would be able to see in the following tabs: if their prescription was sent, what prescription was sent, office visit notes from the EMR. So this is our SOAP notes, our history and exam, but your practice is defining what information they want to share with each patient. And we'll get into that more once we preview a little further. So that is the journey that we're going to see for the patient portal. So highlighting again, both the partner portal and the patient portal. We're going to jump right on back over here. And I want to highlight our portal theme. So I talked about the branding and customization. Again, you control that. You're not at DSN's mercy of completing those forms. So here again, you could change the coloring of what you want for your portal, as well as what kind of border or radiuses you're wanting, as well as your logo, so on and so forth. So your portal theme, you are controlling. Moving right along, we're going to pop on over to our patient tab. Again, looks and feels are very similar to that of our V30 and our cloud product once you're on the window. But I do want to highlight and showcase some exciting features under patient. So underneath preferences, we've also added preferred pharmacy of choice. But you'll see a lot of new tabs over here, one entitled email. Any email communications between the patient and your practice will be listed here under email. So you'd be able to see those notifications that were sent. Instead of digging through your outbox, you would see that directly at the patient level. And that same concept in theory also applies when we're looking at text messages from the system. It will read in a thread. So you'll be able to see text messages that were sent between you and that patient. Timelines is really important as well. Timelines follows back in regards to our portals. So this is tracking when we received the referral, when did the patient accept the patient portal invite, and the various different steps that we've gone about with scheduling the patient, so on and so forth. We can track that all via a timeline in the system. Now, anything that you've shared with this patient via the portal, we'll see under shared files. So we'd be able to see all content that was shared. And if you inadvertently shared something that you didn't mean to, you could unshare it and it would not be visible anymore in that portal. So that is some of the changes that we have made to that patient in regards to enhancement. Now, underneath our insurance setup, this will be very exciting for a lot of our users that are currently in our cloud, but as well reassuring for those of you that are on V30 of the use case of simplifying things. You will not need to log into other portals such as Dental Exchange, Vine Dental, those kind of instances. Everything is done through Atlas directly inside of Atlas. So for example, I'm just going to do a setup here for insurance. And when we're here, we can do a pre-cursory check or pre-flight to check to see if there's any errors with dental exchange attachments, fast attach, or validate Optum. That again can all be done within our system without logging out to go into the dental exchange portal. You can do it directly, both the transmission and validations directly from Atlas. Now, when I do a validation check, if something does come back, it will pull up that it validated 13 checks, 6 were valid, 7 were invalid, and 2 were skipped. Those were our medical ones, and it will show us what those rejections are here. So highlighting and showcasing, again, no need for another portal. You can do it all within Atlas moving forward. And all your integrations that you have today will exist inside of Atlas. So our integration partners have not changed. If anything, they have enhanced that we have new integration partners. Moving on over from our insurance window is our task tracker reminders. We still have these task trackers. How it sits today, if you are at V30 and or our cloud product, there is no notification to tell you a task is due. In Atlas, we have now added a reminder that will appear on the screen based off the team that it is assigned to, that it will show you any tasks that are due. So if that's something that your practice is optimizing and utilizing today, instead of going daily to look at those daily reminders of what's due, we will have those notifications available to you on those days when they come up. The next thing that I want to make sure to truck over to is also our, for those that are anxiously waiting for our EMR record to see what's changed. Our tabs, for the most part, have remained consistent and the same, again, with additional enhancements. So as we had mentioned throughout the software, we have AI built into the platform. And you have a couple different options on how you could capture that. You still have the availability that if you want to select from your phrase sets or your templates, you can. Or you have the option to utilize a microphone to record your entire note. It does not record the actual voice. It records like a dictation recording, and it will make your note for you at the completion of the appointment. So you will go to review and finalize, make your adjustments, and then sign, and it stores in past encounters. So again, we have built-in assistant to assist you with your clinical notes. Again, it only pulls out medical or conditions that need to be addressed. So if you say to the patient, hey, how's the weather, or something like that, it's not going to pull that non-medical language into the dictation note. You will see, however, that we have added a new tab, and that is entitled the anesthesia record. The anesthesia record applies to some states more than others. So if you are currently residing in a state, there are some mandates that you are required to have a separate anesthesia record from your operative report, and we have met those needs by creating a separate anesthesia record. However, you do not need to use it if you are content just utilizing the ones from the operative report. You could sure do that instead as well. Those still live here as well. But for those of you that want a separate record, we also have that anesthesia record. Before diving into the anesthesia record, I cannot pass up the opportunity for my cloud users to show there is that access and availability to add your allergies, health alerts, and current medications directly from the EMR. Instead of going back to your patient tab, you can do it directly from the EMR. And again, that would apply towards edit or delete in all three of these areas. So I can further expand on the anesthesia record. I'm going to hide those health alerts and allergies and pop on over. And I'm going to create a new one. So the anesthesia record, depending on what you have built out inside of your operative report, a lot of the information will pull from the operative report directly into the anesthesia record for you. But as you can see, we have your ASA and your airway class up at the top. If your practice renders or wants to optimize and utilize the preoperative checklist, they can select whatever it is that your practice would normally check. Your preoperative assessment still have and remain your time stamping of when the patient's in the chair, when the IV started, so on and so forth. But bumping right on down to something that a lot of people are wanting to see as well is our intraoperative vitals. You can either enter those manually, you can have it pull from your vitals monitor, and I'm going to go ahead and start my vitals monitor here and show you that you can have your vitals pull directly into the operative report. And if you wanted to view it in a tiles mode, you can, and or you could have it in chart mode, table, so on and so forth, whatever you would prefer. So again, your EKG strip, your vitals, everything pulls directly into our Atlas. I'm going to stop capturing those vitals. Moving right down, we have our drug administration, our local anesthetic, your intraoperative notes, your postoperative checklist. These are all new features, as well as your Andretti score here. I want to also note with this specific checklist here, again, if you do not want to use the anesthesia record, you can still maintain and do everything in your operative report. Just like all of the other records, everything will go into your review and finalize, where you can sign your documents and review them. I also want you to take note under past encounters. If there is a note you would like to share with the patient or the referring doctor, you can hit share and it will share to the portal. So by hitting share, that patient will now be able to see it and they will receive notification. And I briefly am going to touch on this. And I know I'm going pretty fast, but I'm very excited to share a lot of this stuff with you guys today. This is what the patient will be seeing on their end, is anytime you update their chart, they will receive notification your chart has been updated, and they'd be able to click on that and access their dent chart from here. So I wanted you to see, how does the patient know that they were updated? They will receive notification of this. So that is some of the EMR tablets. Now, again, any of the tabs in the EMR, you have that capability to use the mic and record your full session, and it will automatically apply into each field where that fits or which category to build up your note. Not only do we have that AI capability, we also have what is called Ask Atlas. And Ask Atlas, I'm going to have you direct your eye on the right-hand side of the screen. I'm circling around. There's two little blue chat boxes, or white chat boxes in a blue circle, I should say. By coming here, you're able to ask Atlas just about anything you want to know in the software. So if you had a microphone on, you could tap and say, hey, Atlas, kind of like you say, hey, Alexa, or hey, Siri, depending on which kind of phone buyer you are. I could say, who's my top referring doctor? So here I'll say, who is my top referring doctor? So again, you can voice and or type. It's going to go through your system, verify, and pull up whatever responses it has for you. And again, we're in a test sandbox environment. You're going to see it pull up. It's checking all tables and factors. And as soon as it has a response, it will pull it up here on the screen. Or you could ask it to pull up a specific patient. So I could say, does Atlas test, our test patient here, have any x-rays? If so, pull them up for it to pull up the attachments. I think someone might have turned off my Atlas tool, so I'll ask it something else. And again, I think someone turned off my Atlas. We are in a live testing environment, so I apologize for that. Point in cases, you would be able to come back in here. You would be able to see the Ask Atlas, and it will respond. So that's a huge, huge advantage, especially when you have new staff members coming in. If you need the software, if your staff doesn't know, where do I enter in a new insurance company? Where do I go to add a new patient? By asking Atlas, it will navigate your staff directly to that area to be able to identify and answer those questions for you. The other tables that we want to talk about that have been brought back into Atlas but at higher capabilities is our usage analytics. This is for management that would like to look at your user engagement. We can come in and look at those user engagement by staff member, what content and features are they looking at, so more granular cases that we could look at the most heavily used by your practice of analytics. And I'd probably say the biggest difference amongst both V30 and our cloud application moving over to Atlas is our reporting. They are more BI driven or more intuitive reports that you can get very customizable. So I'm going to go ahead and go to my dashboards to give an example. Your dashboards, we have your standard everyday dashboards preset for you that you can go in and look at various different dashboards, but you're not just restricted to these dashboards. You are also welcome to create your own dashboards that are customizable to you as the user and or by practice. And again, you can hover your cursor over any of these and it will give you more value or more detailed information. So custom dashboards are in replacement, essentially, of DSN Analytics and greater magnitude. Something that I want you to be aware of is underneath our help menu, we now have training guides available. So if we hire new staff members, we need our staff to go through courses or onboarding processes. We now have that capability to go through guides. And these are self-help guides where we could run a specific guide and it's going to ask you to perform the task. It'll tell you how to do the task and then for your staff member to perform the task. So it's telling me to open the panel. Now it's your turn, you do it. So it's giving an interactive training session with your staff if that's something your practice would like to optimize to get that user experience both on the training and hands-on. Those were our help guides. I know we have just a few minutes remaining, so I am going to flip my screen back here.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Crystal. That was great.
Yeah, it was a lot of information, folks. I know it. I know it. There's a lot to cover. A lot of fun stuff at that. So.
Yes. Okay, so before we get into the questions, here's what you can do to start your transition. The first thing that you can do is to book a one-on-one session where we'll run Atlas on your practice's actual workflows. Second, during the session, just tell us where you are, if you're on cloud or V30, and we'll map the runway and give you guys a real timeline for the transition. And third, the recording for today, as I said in the beginning, will hit your inbox tomorrow morning so you can share with the rest of your team. And we'll go into the questions now. So first question that we're getting here, we're on V30. Is DSN going to stop supporting it, or how is that going to work?
Yeah, great question. You can stay on V30, it's supported, and there's no current deadline on when we're pushing that as being a sunset product. But what is changing is in development and where that happens, and that will happen inside of Atlas. So some of the features that we talked about today will not be implemented into our V30 products. And or our cloud product. All development will be moving forward in specific areas with how the platform's built inside of Atlas going forward. And again, those would be the AI capabilities and the improvements of instant updates and things of that nature. So to answer your question, there's no hard deadline at this time, and we will still support V30, but new feature enhancements will happen inside of Atlas.
Okay. I've got another one coming in. So what actually happens to my data if I have years of charts, images, and notes?
Yeah, great. It carries over. So nothing starts from scratch. Your patient's record, your clinical history, your imaging, financial charges, everything converts over. So for when you go live, your data is already pulled over in place and verified.
Okay. Next one is how much practice downtime am I looking at?
You don't actually have to close at all when you migrate to Atlas. So when you convert over to Atlas, we just pick a cutover date and you start rolling with Atlas. So there will be no time for downtime for migration.
Okay, the next one coming in is what about my imaging, payment processing, and the integrations I already use?
Yep. So that's a great question. Again, all of our integration partners have remained the same. So if you're using Heartland today for payment processing, your vitals monitors, your imaging softwares, they will all stay the same. However, there are new enhancements built again inside of Atlas. So we will be offering DSN Pay as an option. And also you'll have options for cloud imaging as well. So if you're multi-location, you don't have the same acquisition imaging computer at each location, you would have your cloud imaging available. And in Atlas, you'll have the ability to move to DSN scripts, which is hosted through SureScripts instead of DoseSpot. So you'll have more flexibility and more integration partner availability. But all your current ones to date you're utilizing will be in place inside of Atlas.
Okay, we got time for a couple more questions. So in Atlas, can you modify the referral contact info? So some changing the doctors within the referral, are you able to do that?
You would be able to do that. So if I'm understanding the question correctly, you're controlling the incoming referring. So if a referring doctor refers in, you would control what is listed on their portal site as well as what's listed in your system. So that's controlled by the practice. So yes, you'd be able to manage that.
Okay. And we have another one. This one is about DSN Pay. So does it reconcile the patient's chart?
It does. So it updates the transaction window within DSN and reconcile in your financial reporting.
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much, Crystal. It looks like
Yeah.
that's pretty much all the time that we have for questions today. So if we weren't able to answer your question, I will be going through all the questions in Zoom and I will be emailing everyone that has their names with the questions. And if I don't get back to you because either it's an anonymous or if you have another question later date, please feel free to email us at marketing@dsn.com and we'll get back to you. Again, thank you all for attending this session, and we hope to see you all on Atlas soon.
Thank you guys. Appreciate you.